If you want to learn how to draw realistic eyes easily and step by step, you've come to the right video, because I'll teach you what few artists share. First, we need to keep in mind the shape of the eye, which is a sphere embedded in our skull. I'll show you how to draw an eye from 3 different perspectives, so you can have a better understanding. I'll draw the one in the middle facing forward. The one on the right is facing right. The one on the left is looking left. Now that we've drawn the entire eyeball, we can outline where the eyelids will go, which usually form a sort of lentil-like shape. We need to keep the tear duct in mind when starting to draw the eye. Then we draw the iris in the center. We can use the cross we made as a guide. I'm using a 3B pencil to draw the sketch, and then I'll also use it for the shadows or midtones. For the darkest tones, I'll use an 8B pencil. We calculate the center of the iris to draw a small circle, which will be the pupil. Sometimes it can be larger or smaller depending on the dilation. Taking into account the upper part of the circle, we can draw where the eyelid crease begins. And taking into account the lower part of the circle, we can draw the eye bags, if they appear in the reference photo. We always leave a small space to later draw the lower eyelashes. We also draw a light sketch of where the eyelashes would go. Later, we'll use a darker pencil to highlight them. Drawing the eyelashes is very simple, but you need to practice it about 10 times to get a good command of this technique. At the corners of the eyes, the eyelashes point toward those corners, and in the middle of the eye, the eyelashes go forward and upward. Now, I will draw the sketch of the left eye, keeping the same concepts in mind. Only this time, I will draw the iris to the left, where the cross is located, and the part farthest from the cross will be narrower. As you can see, I don't finish the iris circle, because part of it is covered by the eyelid. But I still imagine where the full iris would be. Now, using the same procedure, I will draw the eye looking to the right, even a bit more turned than the one on the left. From this perspective, the tear duct is covered by the upper part of the nose. To shade the drawing, we need to consider light and shadow, as you can see on my hand where we can observe light areas and dark areas. I will make a separate video where I will explain in depth how to shade a drawing. However, here I will teach you the basics. The eye, being a sphere, has volume, and therefore, depending on the location of the light source, we need to draw the shadows and leave the illuminated areas blank. I do the shading by varying the pressure of the pencil. For midtones, I use light pressure, and for dark tones, I apply more pressure. And then I can use a blending stump to soften the shading. Here, based on the shadows and highlights from the reference photo, I start filling in the dark areas and outlining the bright areas. Usually, the outline of the iris is always darker, and the pupil is always completely black. First, I fill in the entire iris with a midtone, and then I add some details, like those bumps it usually has, like those wrinkles. I usually use a trim brush to blend the dark areas, the ones I want to have more contrast. This makes the graphite stick more to the paper. The white part of the eye almost always has a medium or dark tone. Therefore, I'll use the 3B pencil to fill in, blend, and then if I see that I need more darkness, I'll add another layer. Or more layers, even using a darker pencil. We can even draw some veins to make it more realistic. We draw them without pressing on the paper, just softly. We can also draw some wrinkles. Now we draw the eyelashes with the darkest pencil, in this case the 8B. I'll use a Tombow Mono Zero eraser to make the highlights. You can also use a kneaded eraser or cut a regular eraser so that it has a point. We repeat the same shading and highlighting process with the other two drawings. You can put the player in slow motion or go through the video if you want to follow the procedure in detail. I'm showing it in fast motion, so the explanation isn't repetitive. If you're enjoying the tutorial, support me with a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to see new videos. We can also add some highlights to the iris to give it a better 3D effect.